It is Inside the PFL, Season 9, Week 9. I'm your former champion, El Zumbador, Joe, joined not as ever always by Manny.
Hey, I'm back, baby.
Oh, it's Manny. How you doing? How's soccer been going?
Oh, it's going rough, man. But the season is almost over, and I am eyeing a regular return to the broadcasts and the podcasts and all the casts for playoff picture time. So I will be in it for when it counts because I'm gonna be on the couch for when it counts. So
Yeah, the rare. Is this the first time you'll be missing the playoffs?
uh,
You're gonna be. It's the LeBron treatment after constant 8 seasons of getting very far. You're gonna be spending the last few weeks just as an observer.
hey, it's fine. I just need a nice little you know, a nice little break before season 10. So we'll be
Exactly.
good.
Exactly, and hello Murphy as well. So let's get into actually the first match of the evening, which happens to be your match here, taking on Hunter. I gotta see actually. I did not check. Oh, good. All right, good. I wasn't sure when I brought up the Google Chrome thing what was actually going to be playing there. So, oh no, it doesn't look like it's in the right position. I think I'm putting it on the wrong monitor. Ah, well, whatever. I'll just play it.
It's fine. Everything's
My monitor setup changed to where in my new place my second monitor used to be on the left of my main monitor. Now it's on the right. So I'm trying to figure out how exactly I did these things backwards here. So take us through your match here, Manny. Obviously, right off the bat, the first 2 turns, 2 missed willows. Goddamn, how unlucky is that?
Dude, that sucked, man. Like, had I gotten any one of the first 2 burns and not had to wait 3 turns to burn, I would have had Mega Sableye around to wall the barrel. And I'm not saying I would have won because I would have, I played the mid game horribly, as we're going to talk about. But, I mean, if I had Sableye around for that late game barrel thing, I probably could have stalled it out a little bit longer and probably had a better chance of pulling it out.
Now, I think that at least Beedrill was a good transform here. Obviously, Ditto had some good transforms. Did it have anything other than Poison Jab and Drill Run, or was it like U-turn, so you were forced to do something that no matter what, he could send something in that would be immune to whatever you choose with Scarf?
He had SD, just standard Beedrill. SD, U-turn, Poison Jab, Drill Run.
Yeah.
But whatever one I clicked, he was going to go into either Drac or Lando. So,
Yep.
and I wanted to just make sure that I definitely 100% got the kill on Mech Beedrill. That's why I went with Poison Jab.
Not a bad idea. And here we see the other one here where I feel like you kind of not pigeonholed yourself necessarily, but found yourself in the same area where your options were Fly and Earthquake, which probably weren't good when you have Ditto there.
I mean, I should have switched out into Rotom a little bit sooner. But again, if I just didn't get gibbed by Mega Beedrill early in the game and completely neuter Mega Sableye, I could have checked into Lando. I could have checked into Barrel. I could have checked into a lot of things that got KOs in the mid game. So,
yeah, I feel like
used up all my superpowers against Drac.
Yeah, I feel like there were just moments where you essentially end up pigeonholed, where you can only do one thing, and Hunter has a very good either switch in or something that he can use to answer there because obviously, like you said, you were put in a tough position with Mega Beedrill when Ditto came in. You were put in a tough position with when Ditto came in as Lando because it's just the moves that he had. He was good with the sets that on his boosting mons because as you can't really put in a boosting mon with a lot of coverage or anything if there's a Ditto on the opposing team just because it's going to cause some problems.
No, and I don't know what my brain was going when I was like, yeah, I'll just hit Scarf Fly here. But like that was, I don't know if it was incredibly ballsy or incredibly dumb, but every one of his mons was a setup mon. So like he was playing a very scary game for a lot of the game. But like once I lost the Ditto, he was free to go with whatever he wanted. But I probably, like, had I just kept Ditto alive, I don't think he would have been able to set up late game without shooting himself in the foot, essentially neutering the rest of his team, because he basically just brought 6 setup.
No, he ran. We saw Swords Dance on both Beedrill and Lando. We know how Superior works. We saw Shell Smash. We saw Swords Dance Barrel. Everything other than Jirachi, and Jirachi was there pretty much just to deal with Chansey, it looked like.
Yeah, basically. It was just 100% to go against Chansey. So,
so
yeah, I mean, I felt good about the game. Just the mid game kind of messed me up a little bit, and then those early game misses. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, the haze on Toxapex also a good tech there, but I feel like the rest of this here, he ends up getting a +3. It's like I feel like Simple Barrel is the end of things, but actually it's, there's still 2 more mons that you end up killing here, which I think is just Superior and Cloister, I want to say. Just through like seismic tosses or toxics and stuff alone. So we could just 52. Yeah, you just I wasn't there for that battle, but you ended up just giving the old forfeit to him.
Yeah, once the Chansey was in, I was like, I'm not gonna waste anyone's time here.
Well, I appreciate that. So, unfortunately, with that loss, you are mathematically eliminated from playoffs. But
fade me, fam.
Still, it was an experimental season for you. James had one of those. We've all had seasons where you want to try a little something, and it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I found out what I don't like.
I mean, the thing is, you didn't like stall to begin with, so
I just wanted to try it. I wanted to see how it was, and honestly, like, if the season was like another 4 games longer, I think I could have turned it around. I was starting to get a better hang of it. But yeah, it's just not my forte. I like being creative, and not that you can't be creative with stall, but stall's kind of straightforward.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on here to a big win, keeping the playoff hopes of one Mike alive here in a win against Jack. Jack said it pretty either in the chat for Inside the PA or for the broadcast, or Manectric solved basically his entire team, which was a problem.
Let's go, Mike. I'm proud of him. I mean, like that. There was some questionable stuff that happened in the game from both sides, but the Manectric tech just ran the train there.
Yeah, like we see there were some weird reads, like he decided to go for a Stone Edge against Steelix resisted Stone Edge.
Yeah, there were just some odd, not odd, I guess just wrong reads.
Wrong reads, yeah, because he thought probably that, after the EQ, didn't know if Jack wanted to throw away Steelix that early, thought Torn might be coming in. Not the case, but really the only Mon that he ends up losing here, we see it coming in, a late pickup, the old Trevenant here, which did exactly what Mike was just like frantically searching, which I don't know if he just doesn't pay attention to the Mons that he picks up, like, do I have anybody with Willow? Do I have anybody with Willow? And as it turns out, the old Spoopy Tree there does in fact Mega Metacham without like a... Well, does Mega Metacham get Sword Stance? I don't think so, just because it has pure power. That's probably ridiculous. But whatever Mega Metacham was throwing out, it wasn't going to OHKO Trevenant. Like, even an Ice Punch did like 85% max on the build that he was doing. So he was... all he needed to do was make sure that the Willow didn't miss, which after your match, I'm sure he was very shook.
Yeah, you really rely on those Willows until... What's the accuracy on Willow? 90?
85, I want to say.
85? Okay, wow, okay, never mind. I don't feel as bad now.
Hello, Leibo.
Because it seems like automatic. Like
right.
Willow, Toxic, Thunderwave, like you're like, yeah, automatic, and then you miss, and you're like, what the hell is this about?
And I liked their, how did you like the old Z Focus Blast from Torn? They're doing 8% to Golbat.
No, dude, Golbat is one of those mons that like it has to be at like 100% draft at this point. Like it's such a good Eviolite user, and quad to fighting plus Eviolite, like it's just that's amazing that the Z move did. It basically healed Golbat.
Pretty much. Like I feel like the only it was James who had Golbat first, I think, where we were all just kind of side-eyeing like, Golbat, really? And then we saw what he did with it, and yeah, like you said, once that happened, it's been like 100% draft rate, much like a Lomomola. Well, and as well, Jack getting a little unlucky there with the old 99% try attack, not being able to kill Mega Manectric. So
that was crucial. I wonder if that had to be a roll, right?
I'd had to have been. Normally, stuff doing 99%, you feel like you gotta think like if you see max 99%, it's like, well, it's not even really doing, is it? If I'm not gonna get the kill.
Yeah, that must have been infuriating. If he calced that, he got like the lowest roll. Because like Pokemon round down, right?
I think so. I want to say yeah.
So he got probably the lowest roll possible.
So Mike with that gets a lot of points for Lorelei, which we'll talk about the Conference Cup as it goes. It keeps his playoff hopes alive. Mike's in a weird position where if he loses to Dan next week, he might be in. He's not in a position where he can win the division if he beats Dan, though. So no matter what, if Mike's getting into playoffs, it has to be through a wild card spot, and the dominoes have to fall in such a way, if he loses, that he has to get lucky. He either has to win or get lucky.
Hey, man, take care of business, you know?
TCB.
Like, you love to be in that position where like you win and you're in, you know, like you don't have to rely on anyone else, just you win, you're in.
You win and
you're in. Be in, but with that position it comes pressure, and we all know how Mike does under pressure.
I mean, I thought this was going to be a match where Mike had to perform under pressure, because it's the first, because Mike probably would have rather just losing and then have his playoff hopes just completely dashed so he didn't have to care, but now he has dug himself a deeper hole where it's much like in Season 7 where it's like, well, I'm probably going to miss playoffs. Let me just change everything around. And I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe I want to play a game with these here. And then I completely obliterate Mike, and then I'm in the playoffs, and then I'm in the finals. And I'm like, well, I would have liked the season to have been over, motherfucker. But all right, cool.
Yeah, Mike's one of those players that he'd probably just rather be done.
Next, we've got James taking on Dylan here. Dylan, as we saw, has been giving people the James treatment. He's been beating people +5. Like his all of his wins reflect that. 4-4 plus 20. So he's in a very interesting position here where I think it was Drac said on the broadcast, as soon as Dylan lost 2 Pokemon, you knew James was going to win just because he wasn't beating people by anything other than +5. But this is a James game. This is James going with a gimmick for his entire squad and it catching the opponent off guard, I think. Because why weak armor? Like, running weak armor seems like such a weird... Like, every mon had boosting moves. We had a Hone Claws, we had a weakness policy, we had Belly Drum. Like, everything in there had some kind of boost just to get up on the mons here, and it was 100% James.
I mean, he was playing the odds there, you know? Like, I'm going to bring boost on everything, and then one of my 6 mons is going to swoop. No, he was either going to get a high plus or nothing at all.
And, I mean, a +3 isn't exactly, a gigantic plus, but still, it works here. And we see, man, knockoff coming from Ferrothorn. It couldn't have come from a better mon to activate that weakness policy, because, the offensive output that Ferrothorn has is, I mean, its attack is like 85, so, like, neutral Meteor Mash doing 100%. I don't agree with him not opting for Bullet Punch here, because I keep thinking that he had Bullet Punch, but we see it on Hariyama here, actually.
Still, I would have liked to see it on Metagross. But, I mean, if you're going with the agility set...
Yeah.
Pick and choose here.
Agility, Meteor Mash, Zen Headbutt, EQ, I think, is what we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but I feel like actually, despite all this, despite us, kind of talking up how James did in this match here, it comes down to we'll see in I believe it's probably just the next turn. Player off misses, and I think James didn't really have a good answer for Mega Absol and that sucker punch with Gothitelle and Keldeo left.
No, no, especially with the play rough tech on there. Like, Keldeo could 1v1 Absol without it, but Keldeo wasn't going to last very long either.
No, and I failed to mention James got Gothitelle specifically for Frisk, and it paid dividends in the very first turn, telling him that Rotom had the scarf. So it let him know as well that we found Keldeo was faster than it in the end. Keldeo was scarfed, so...
Frisk is the best.
Frisk is great. I always love when it happens. So I better mute my phone really quick. There we go. I almost forgot, because normally... Man, it's weird. Normally I'll get an email when I start broadcasting. Oh well. So, James getting the +3 over Dylan here. A lot of these wins only help Mike. Dylan was breathing down his neck, but now that he is one game ahead of Dylan, Mike's looking in better standing here. James now has a shot at the playoffs. It's a long shot, but he can do it. We'll discuss that a bit later. Next we've got here what I described as just a very Rob loss. It's Dave taking on Rob here, getting the old, what was it, +3 over Rob? Yeah, so Manny, I don't think much interesting happens in this match other than one very specific turn, but this all just becomes Rob makes mistakes. Like, Rob makes Rob mistakes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what his team building process is, but it's not a good one. There's never any gel or synergy. He just brings 6 random mons, 6 random sets. You have no idea what he's gonna bring, and if you just do a little bit of prep work on his mons, he can't catch you by surprise. That's how Rob's gonna beat you, is by doing some weird weakness policy Diancie getting a diamond form boost. That's how Rob wins,
That's how Rob's been winning, since we became kind of more smart to his bullshit. That seems like that's the only way he's been getting wins. Yeah. And
you just play safe and sound, and you just do a little bit of prep work. Nothing can catch you off guard, and the game's over.
It just happened here where I believe Arcanine takes all the forms of damage possible in a turn, where it takes Rough Skin, Rocky Helmet, Recoil, and Life Orb damage, all from one move. And
how much did it lose? 70%.
I think it hurt. It hurt more than. It hurt more than it hurt Druddigan in the end. It hurt itself more than it hurt Druddigan. Also, again, Rob just making weird things like sending in Girder to take rocks damage against Gengar when it can't kill Gengar, when he just kills it with a bullet punch with Scizor the next turn. Staying in here when Muck with Fire Punch is a fairly common thing. And
oh yeah, I was what are you doing?
I don't know. Also, congratulations to Murphy, winning a trip to Panama, I guess, again for a second time apparently. So good for him, unless it's some kind of Nigerian prince deal. And we just see this ends as you might expect it to, where Floor just dies because Amok is. I mean, it's not going to do anything to Amok.
No, absolutely not.
So Rob loses. It's looking very much like Rob is going to end the season winless, which is going to be a bit of a bummer, because potentially 3 people, and I use winless very, very loosely here, but potentially 3 people are winless against other people in the league this season, considering Thomas's wins come from a DQ and when Mike piloted his team, and Gage's win comes from him beating me, who is not an active player in the league.
Oh, wow. Yes, no, I'm going to go with that, Joe. There's a huge asterisk on both of those teams. In my record book, they're all winless.
Let's move on here to Dale. A big surprise here. Dale getting a win over Tristan. I'm going to put this one on fast because this is one where something doesn't. I'm going to put it on hyper fast because something doesn't happen for about 20 turns here. And let me just see. Wow, that's pretty good, Murphy. Jeez. Well, good for you winning at blackjack and getting a stay at a condo in Panama. Goddamn. Potentially. So in this one here, really, the story of this match, I believe, Manny, is screens Primarina and like wish support Mega Gardevoir putting in the work here.
Yeah, I mean, they really provided some longevity. I think the game should have probably been over in Tristan's favor had he not brought like two odd. Not odd. No one like. I feel like Screen Spring Arena, it paid dividend today, but like you really want to be smacking people at Green.
Exactly. Same thing with Guard. You'd think that's the thing. Both of them took on utility roles, presumably. I mean, Guard died before it did anything, but both of them were doing more utility things than ever. And I understand, like having Chestnut in there doing fun things. He kind of burned Z Belly Drum early, unfortunately, but it didn't really matter in the end. He also had a hell of a time killing Torn, which is, I think this is where it's the cost of it is clear, because like 120 for just getting that little bit of health back every turn, like that nearly 1/3, 20, what is it? Is it 1/3 for regenerate or 30% flat? I forget.
33.
So literally 1/3. Okay. We also see here Tristan uses Hurricane, I believe, 8 times in this match, and he misses 2, which technically
pretty good.
That's along the lines of what you might expect from a move with 70%. But I would like to inform everybody, as I do every time Hurricane is brought up, that I missed it 7 times in a row one time in a random battle. This stuff happens.
Hey, but I mean, his Hurricane misses hurt more than the Hurricane hits.
No, I agree, because the entire reason that Torn ends up dying, which we'll see later on here, which helped to win Dale the match, Technician Hitmontop, using Rock Slide on a missed Hurricane, keeping it alive long enough to use things like Bullet Punch to get rid of Tyranitar and Registeel. It was exciting, I'd say. It was we were all watching in awe.
Yeah, and then the big HJK.
That's true. Yeah, there was an HJK miss at 1%. I forgot about that. Like 2 big misses in this match for both Dylan and Tristan, 2 people who were on their way to potentially be the top of their division, now on the outside looking in when it comes to playoffs. So doesn't that, man, it seems like we always get to a point where the person who was the champion last season ends up missing playoffs.
Oh boy. There will be another new champion, Joe.
I mean, it's Dan. From what it's looking like, Dan is the only person, potentially Tristan or James, are going to be the only people getting into playoffs who have been champions previously. And if anyone's going to do it, I think it might be James, from what we're going to see. He has that weird power to come back. Dan always surprises. He's got a good team. Been riding Mega Mile pretty far. We'll see how it turns out, though, because Dan traditionally has been a very kind of 50-50 guy, so we'll see how it pans out. If you can tell, I've just been filibustering as I'm waiting for this battle to end because it's over 60 turns.
Okay, just hard X.
Yeah, let's just go. Hitmontop getting the win with the Mach Punches. Good for him. It looked for a second like Registeel might be able to wait it out, but lucky for Mitch, that was not the case. So, next we've got Jim taking on Murphy, getting the +1 here. This was a match where I feel like it was bogged down by a few mistakes made by Murphy, just like bad reads and not even not knowing, but just letting Quagsire die when, at least to you and me, it's fairly obvious that the Z move that Heatran normally carries is
Bloom Doom.
Bloom Doom, yes.
100% Bloom Doom. And like if you have a Quagsire on your team, like you gotta know that
everything can be a potential problem. Everything can be
just take the extra turn and scout.
We see here as well a bad read on that one, thinking that he's going to switch into something like Aerodactyl to not just... He didn't think that he was going to let Drapion die, essentially. So he decides to go for Sludge Wave rather than Earth Power, and Nidoqueen dies. So, and here we see the Bloom Doom. He wanted to throw Togekiss at Heatran, but was very afraid of Flash Cannon. I don't blame you, because Heatran's one of those mons where it's got a very easy out, but if you don't have, like, Nidoqueen's gone, so once that out is gone, what is your answer to Heatran? It essentially becomes
nothing. Just with its 11 resistances, it just becomes an unstoppable wall.
And we saw there the Aurora Veil from not the Aurora Veil was just what happened. The Aura Sphere from Togekiss doing like 40%, not even. It was not, doing very well against Heatran in that scenario either.
But then I think the bigger story here is Jim could have had 4 or 5, and then I don't know what he was doing late game. Was he looking for something safe? I don't know. Bringing this all the way down to +1 is not how this game was supposed to go.
No, at this point, it's pretty much dead to rights, because Liepard's at barely anything, and Chandelore's at full, but Chandelure can't beat all of those, can't get rid of all of those mons here, so he sends out rocks to make it a little easier to kill. Does the Earth Power. You'd think that, Chandelure comes in here, it manages to kill with a Shadow Ball, and then you just go into something like, if you assume that... We even see that Kamo has bulletproof, so why not send it in and use... I forget what it even uses, if it's like Dragon Claw, Shadow... It has Shadow Claw, so... we know that it's not Scarfed. Maybe that was the reason that but even then, Scarf Shadow Ball would have... You're right. It's just it goes from... He decides to set up Aurora Veil, he decides to set up rocks, he does all these things as insurance for a win that's... For a loss that's not going to happen, essentially.
Yeah, it was there. Just one sack, even one sack into Como, Chandelure is just made of paper. Pretty sure Shadow Claw would have killed from any HP that it was at with the rocks up.
Yeah.
I don't know why we needed to go through all these steps to get to a plus.
Oh, that makes sense, Murphy. Yeah, because I watched Jim's video on this battle, and I believe it was something like he wanted just insurance policies. He goes for Pursuit so he didn't have to miss Stone Edge. He goes for, he sets the rocks out, gets the Aurora Veil because he doesn't want something like Psychic to come in and kill him, things like that, where... Stuff that could have happened.
Fair enough. He wanted the win over the plus.
No, I don't blame him. A win's a win, especially when you're Jim and you're at 7-1. Your plus does not matter very much.
No. So I think just him being on top of everything, and he's the number 1 seed, right? Yeah.
He is currently the number 1 seed. That is correct.
Yeah. So, yeah, he just needed the big old win column there. He wasn't playing for plus. He wasn't trying to improve his standings. He didn't need. So.
Next, we've got Leibo taking on Mario here, where much like Mario's loss against Jim from earlier in the season, as soon as somebody starts setting up in his face, I don't know, Mario going with the 3-200 strategy is not great because he kind of defense was forgone in this year. Ariados ended up being kind of his defensive option for most of the season, and that's a tier 5 Pokemon.
Right. I'm going to preface this by saying I think that the 3 tier S's can work, and Mario's team definitely could have worked. I think it just came down to the way Mario chose to play the battles.
To build the rest of his... I feel like one of those 200s has to be something defensive.
Nothing for Hooja, and Halucha just ran the train, like, and even in some of Mario's previous battles, I just think some of them were winnable. He just played it wrong, and that's what I think here. I think he could have played it a little better, and he could have maybe squeaked something. But
yeah, because I mean that's the thing when you're starting against Halucha, when you're leading with Ariados, it's big fodder. You know, I understand as well. Mario doesn't want to either start with one of his
team though too. Is just that it's so like like there was no downside to leading Halucha because like plus side, oh he goes Ariados. Ariados can't touch hair on Halucha's head. So you're like, yes, awesome, okay. But then like worst case scenario, you still you know what I mean? Like it's still you're leading off Halucha against, any of his other mons, which his outside of his tier S's, none of them really had any offensive power.
Yeah, like Hitmonlee was his option, but like that's the thing, especially against Halucha, you're losing that battle 100% of the time too.
Yeah.
And if not for the missed HJK, I believe that Halucha probably would have taken that as well.
Oh no, it was going to be 6. Leibo played fantastic.
So Leibo getting a big win, big plus for the boys in blue. Not enough to pull him out of that hole, unfortunately, with yours and Murphy's loss. Is actually the next one that we're talking about. Oh, the other blue match. It is indeed. So the other one here, all Drac needed to do, it was in his hands. It was in his hands. He needed, I believe, +3 or better.
+3.
+3 or better. Only ends it with the +2, which Drac is kicking himself about, I'm sure, because he had some good strats in this battle. We see right off the get-go here, using the Lumberry. I feel like the Lumberry is so underappreciated.
I love it, dude.
Especially when people are throwing sleep powder around. It's great when somebody has like a Moongus for Spore, so you trick them into using something and then just like clapping right back at them. I love it. And Mitch's team had very little that wanted to deal with Yuxi and Psychic. Like, he lets Zebstrika die. He's, it comes down to Mimikyu here, like, coming in and hitting Shadow Sneak a bunch of times.
Oh, my gosh. I'm sorry, my commentary had to wait there.
No, that's all right. So, yeah,
But... yeah, I mean, he was just taking way too much damage trying to get around Yuxi of all things. I don't know what happened with the stop process there. Like Yuxi's not the the offensive powerhouse.
Not really, no. And we saw here what could have been the tide turner. Even after a Hone Claws, the hustle Stone Edge misses. And
no.
That's unfortunate because it could have been a way to get Mimikyu out of there, leave Durant with more health, maybe enough to take down Kabutops. Mitch just forgetting that, presumably, that Giga Drain is priority with Comfey. Like,
he probably thought it was just fairy moves or something.
Oh, he must have. I'm trying to remember. Like, Drac's sitting pretty here with 4 left. You know what? He can't get beyond the Leech Seed and the Giga Drains here, which I feel like he ends up sacking Nidoking for almost no reason. But he didn't want to send anything else in.
Yeah, I mean, he was just playing for the win too. He can't afford a loss right
Exactly. That's another thing. You don't want to. Your wins come before the Conference Cup. Better to get a +3 than try to aim for the +4 and lose.
Yeah.
Or the +2 rather. And that was all she wrote on that one. 20 turns, and Mitch is now in a position where he was the 5th seed. Now he is the 8th seed, where if he loses his last battle, that's probably going to spell the end of him for playoffs here. So we'll see one of the people where 5 wins is just not enough to get into the playoffs. And
that's crazy, man. Like, 5 is one of those numbers where, like, 5 you need some help. 6 you're in.
Exactly. 6 is the magic number.
And it's been proven over the course of the league, and it's just, 5 and 4. Nah, man, that sucks. To not have enough plus or not have enough pull there to get to where you need to be. I feel for Mitch right now. Because I'm out. I've been out. It's fine. I've come to terms with my failure. But like all these people that are on the cusp that are going to like miss playoffs next week, like the possibility of James or like Tristan, like previous champions, not making it in. I'm like a sliver, dude. Man, I feel for him.
The field is narrowed. Those pluses are important. That's the thing,
Yeah.
where I feel like even though Dylan's at 4-4, he's got Rob, I think, in the last week here. So unless Rob pulls a rabbit out of his hat, Dylan's pretty much in because he's got those big wins earlier in the season.
Yeah, and I mean, Dylan has proven he can get big wins, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dylan busts out a +4 or 5 here.
Next, we've got M1 taking on Thomas. This one, I believe, leaves M1 in the playoff hunt as well. He's I think his chances are the slimmest, unfortunately, just because he is the lowest plus of the people at 4-4. He gets the +3 here over Thomas, and this is a match all about Rotom Wash, in my mind, because it does so much work in this match. It slows Latias down. It hits some hydro pumps where it needs them. Oh man, I love the Intimidate Defiant. Like, Intimidate activating Defiant.
What a play. I feel like that's every game with Rotom Wash stuff.
And that's why we moved it up, because it like...
Yeah, that good about Mon. Where like, if you have Rotom Wash left, you're doing something all right.
There was a little bit of momentum shifting through the red card and the Scarf Stone Edge here, where I feel like that's one of those areas where, I mean, not much wants to take the Stone Edge on M1's team, really, but I would have liked to have seen Volcarona stay alive there.
Yeah.
And we see some more things here with the defog plays and the paras allowing for the hydro pumps to do what they need to do as well here, where, I mean, Rotom being able to just get Shuckle out of there in 2 moves, I love seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, Shuckle could, like, with the setup there, it could have done a little more work, but, I mean, Rotom is just...
When you're facing down a Mon that has defog, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, so he could, like, worst case scenario, he just hydros, defogs, and he can't touch him. You've
got to feel a little bad there too. The fake out activating the 50% berry. It doesn't much matter in the end when the focus miss is able to just murk Rotom, but Megalopunny comes in here, leaves Gyarados as the only Mon that can really do anything here.
Mm-hmm.
You got Lopunny coming back in for the fake out, and my favorite way that we've ended a match after the return here, where he goes up for the bounce, and then Braviary comes in,
and he's dead.
And Rocky Helmet.
What a satisfying way to finish.
Because you know you've won, like, a turn before it's over, before your opponent. That's a good feeling.
It's the best. Like, I just imagine, like, the pixelated sunglasses come over his eyes, and like, I'm about to end this man's career, and then
like James ended up winning that way. Like, Dylan didn't know that Keldeo was scarfed, so in comes, like, James knew Rotom was scarfed, and then in comes Keldeo, and like, whoops, I'm faster. Sorry.
Yeah. It's always, yeah. It's a great feeling being on that side when you're like, yes, no, the game is over.
And finally here we have Dan getting the win over Gage. This is a +1 here. I watched this one live. I mean, I watch most battles live, Manny, but, you know, this is one that did not take place on a broadcast day, so, you know, saying that you were there live is a little bit different. But I'm a little mad because Gage could have won this.
Did he? I don't think I even saw this match. This is not ringing a bell.
Oh, well, all right. Well, it's an interesting match, to say the least. He's got all of the dogs there, all 3 of the dogs. Your dog special, but
yes.
It doesn't. The thing is, it doesn't start very well. Like, you get a freeze here on Goodra, and it thaws the very next turn. So you feel you're not getting too much out of it.
See it.
If only you could be so lucky.
All right, good. Oh, okay. The miss. Suicune.
Oh yeah, you're watching on the broadcast here, probably.
Wake up, bam. Okay, here it is. Oh, Scrafty, love it.
Moxie Scrafty, by the way, who is who hasn't done too much for Dan in these battles here, but we see that, he's
putting in the work.
The moxie coming in, it's doing what it needs to do. It's unfortunately that speed is coming back to bite it, and then we see a big sea change here because the rest of these mons are weak to Entei. He
just tricked Iron Ball onto Entei.
He tricks the Iron Ball onto Entei to slow it down.
Fantastic.
Because the only thing stopping Entei was Gudra, and that's gone. And the thing is, even with the Iron Ball, Entei, looking at this here, it is 4-2 in Gage's favor, and 3-2 now. But Suicune comes in. It's looking
crazy.
It's looking pretty good. Suicune has Shadow Ball, so it is able to get very close to killing Frostlass here. We see the D-Bond, and even then, 2-1, even though it's Mega Mawile, you think all Gage needs to do is not send in Hippowdon to get intimidated, and that is exactly what he does.
No! Oh my, he had it. All he had to do.
He's got the Rocky helmet on Hippowdon and everything. All he needed to do was have Hoopa come in first to take the Sucker Punch and then let Hippowdon do the rest of the work.
Dude, that's the match of the week right there. I was on my toes.
I mean, tricking an Iron Ball alone is...
That's like the air horn plays right there, man. Like, man, can we get an F in chat for Gage? Like, please.
It was so close, and that's the thing. That's the only other match that would have benefited Mike, and almost all the dominoes were falling in his favor. We were watching that battle together, and we were like, "Oh, Gage has this one," and then Hippowdon comes in, and we're both like, "No, no!"
All you got to do is re-switch Hippowdon out.
If only. Oh well. Well, let's take a look at the standings here as a result of that week. The week that was, where we've got the 5 people currently heading their divisions. I mean, the playoff picture would probably be better to look at, so let's look at the Conference Cup then, too, while we're looking at this.
Oh, wait, what are we doing first? Conference Cup or playoff picture? Because I have takes that I need to get out.
All right, well, I have the Conference Cup image is up, so as you can see, there is a tie between Lorelai and Bruno. Both got 21 points here. Blue sitting at 20. Lance at 14. Agatha at 13. Manny, the floor is yours.
Okay. I want a out-of-season match against Gage. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Because those first 4 picks are rightfully the Mats. All right? The Mats earn those. Okay? I want it, Joe. I want it. How do we make this happen?
All right, look, if you can get Gage on the same page and if you could do your battle with your current teams however you want, obviously if Gage wins, that's points for the Lance division, I believe. No, for Agatha, excuse me. And if you win, it's points for you, whatever. But also we need Lorelai and Bruno to do their match to determine... how about at best? No.
Okay, compromise.
What?
So, tiebreaker between Lorelai and Bruno, right?
Uh-huh.
Whatever that plus is, add it to their score, and then I have to beat that final score with my makeup game.
And if you don't...
Say like Lorelai gets a +3 and they're at 24.
Uh-huh.
And so I have to beat Gage by +4.
+4 or better, which might result in another tie, by the way.
Which is fine.
So here's the thing:
I will compromise that. Like if that's where we're at, I will compromise that to get my points.
If you lose, the Mats have to pick 16 through 20.
Okay, let me talk it over with the Mats. I don't want to have, our group synergy is at an all-time high. We're probably the most active of the group chats. So I will get the Matt's opinions and see if they want to risk it for the biscuit here.
And here's the thing. We have not determined yet if Lorelai and Bruno want to do this, which I think this will hinge on that as well. Because if they're fine taking the tie, being a mix of 1 through 8, then that's what I'm fine with. And
they're a bunch of pansies, man.
From what I remember reading, to disclose this information from the Bruno lounge, Hunter said he only wanted to do it if Mike was the person. But we also said that the representatives have to be people that aren't in the playoffs, which it looks like
Yes.
both Lorelai and Bruno will be sending 2 people to the playoffs, from what I can tell. So that brings it down to it may be Mike. It may be, it may have to be. We'll have to see after this week who those people may be that send there. But if it comes down to like Dan, Mike, and Dylan making the playoffs, Lorelai might be like, we're good.
I was gonna say, why don't we just take Rob and Thomas, make them battle it out? There are a lot of moving parts here.
That might be better. I do love the old Matchbox 20 battle, the Rob Thomas.
This has to happen. I will not rent. We are not. This is not a tie. We cannot tie in the Conference Cup. Okay, there needs to be a tiebreaker in the Conference.
There must be a winner,
and we are going to write it into the rules for next season.
I like it. Okay, so let's look at the playoff picture.
Okay, playoff.
Which we don't have the entire playoff picture here.
Yeah,
just the top 8, which I'm actually going to take a look here on my screen so I can see the people who are still in the hunt. So we've got Jim, head of the leaderboard, 7-1 plus 23. Drac 7-1 plus 21. Dan at 6-2. Again, all these people basically have their cards punched. They are the leaders of their division. I don't think Mike has because Mike is plus 14. He needs to beat Dan plus 6 if he wants to win the division, which we'll just temper our expectations and say he's not going to do that.
No, but here's the deal. 3 wild cards: Dave, Mike, Mitch. They win, they're in. Nothing stops them. They're good.
Yes, exactly.
I think that Dylan is the only one with a real chance. If any one of those 3 falter next week, Dylan wins, then he's the person.
Yeah, the people on the outside looking in are Dylan, James, Tristan, and M1. I believe James and M1 play each other, so yes. So depending on how that battle goes, that might be like if James ends up getting a big victory there, if M1 ends up getting a big victory, they're 14 and 13 respectively, so they're kind of close on that one, but both of them have a chance. Neither of them might end up having a chance. We'll end up seeing there. Tristan is taking on Mitch, so that's potentially for a playoff spot. If Mitch loses, he's out. If Tristan wins, he's in, basically. Dan and Mike, as we said, they are going after the same thing here. Dave is playing Mario, so Dave is pretty much the one who is not playing Runer for somebody else who's also in the hunt.
Right.
And as we said, Dylan is playing Rob. So no offense to Rob, but Dylan pretty much will end up as probably the 6th seed.
Probably. I really think Dylan's going to... I don't feel good about Dave, Mike, or Mitch.
Yeah, they're definitely in...
Mitch has turned it around. I have a higher opinion of Mitch now. But Dave, Mike, and Mitch, they all have, there's always these moments where I'm just like, what is happening?
They are on the precipice, and certainly also as well, something that we have not noted is Jack is taking on Dale, where if Dale beats Jack, and then whoever wins M1 versus James more than likely will get ahead of plus 15, because it's 15, 14, 13 respectively, so
yeah, right.
That division is still wide open.
M1 and James, their route to the playoffs, yeah.
Same thing with the Bruno division, where Hunter is taking on Thomas, so same kind of deal. If Thomas loses, or if Thomas manages to get the win over Hunter, and Tristan can't catch Hunter at this point, but if Mitch beats Tristan, then he's 6-3 and he's leading the division, so he gets back up in that sweet spot of seed 4 or 5.
Man, lots of movement.
Lots of moving parts here. We've got 8 positions, and we've got
he could possibly have the number 1 seed.
Exactly. Yeah, we've 8 positions and 12 people fighting for them right now. So there are a lot of matchups to keep an eye out for next week here. So let's bring up the Week 10 schedule so we can make some predictions here.
Let's go.
Conference Cup is over. These are all just straight Ring of Honor, one-on-one within the division. Win or go home in a lot of circumstances. Dan versus Mike is the first one we're looking at here. Dan has been on a roll. Mike has momentum after last week. We've seen from the match that Dan played against Gage that Dan is very beatable. Do you have faith in Mike to win this match, Manny?
Oh, dude, I don't know. I'm gonna go. Probably not. I am gonna go with Mike.
I'm gonna take Dan on this one. I have faith in him as the man that beat me for a championship. I believe that this is his best opportunity to become the first two-time champion among us. He wants a high seed. He might end up even taking on Mike in the following week, depending on how the chips fall. So,
right.
Which you know all about that, Manny, against Dan.
Fuck that noise, man.
Next, we've got Rob taking on Dylan. This one's going to Dylan.
Dylan. And it won't be close.
No surprise there. Unfortunately, Rob is going to make history as the first Detroit Lions of the Pokemon Fun League.
Yep, he will go down in history.
Or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the 1970s, if you will.
No, it's the Lions.
We've got Mitch taking on Tristan here after the loss that Tristan suffered last week here. I'd like to think that Mitch and Dale do some conferring and that Mitch is able to... Because more than anything, also, Mitch wants to beat Mike. And in order for him to lock Mike out, he needs to win. So that's his best bet.
I don't know, man. I'm going to go with Tristan on this one. I've seen Tristan get it together. And like when Tristan played, like when Tristan's on his P's and Q's, like Tristan is championship material.
I was going to say, he's got championship pedigree. The De Silva family is the first dynasty of the Pokemon Fun League.
Yes.
And much like the Eli to Big Brother Peyton, he wants that second ring.
Yeah, seriously, man. It's a race between siblings, so you can get the second ring.
Next we've got here Hunter taking on Thomas. I'd like to think that Thomas pulls out some crazy shit at the end of the season because, as we said, he has not officially beaten anyone in the league so far this season. And he's going to want one. He's not going to want to get stuck with that stigma of being undefeated and asterisk winless.
Yeah. It's a toss-up for me. I'm going to go with Thomas just because I would like to see it happen. Nothing against either.
Exactly. Going with my heart on that one. We've got Mario versus Dave here. Here's where Mario can play Ruiner. His playoff chances are over. He can lock Dave out with a win, potentially. That 15 might end up with Dave at the 8th seed, but maybe. We'll see how that goes. I don't know, though, how Mario's going to weather that storm. I think this one's going to go to Dave.
I, too, think it's going to go to Dave. I just hope Mario doesn't give us one of those I'm obviously checked out games, and Dave gets a +6 or something. I hope Mario actually plays to ruin somebody, and there is something satisfying about playing with the my game is meaningless, but this game you can end somebody's season.
There's ramifications, exactly.
Yes, that I would wake up for that game. If I knew I wasn't in playoffs and I knew I could take it away from somebody else, you can bet your ass I'm prepping for that game. So I just hope Mario actually preps for it, and it's not one of those where he's just checked out. He's like, well, I don't have nothing to win. No.
Spite is a very powerful motivator.
Right. Especially in this league.
Exactly. We've got Jim taking on Gage here. This is, unfortunately, a meaningless match because the only thing that can happen here if Gage gets a victory is Drac might be able to slot himself into the 1 seed. That's about it?
Yeah. No, Jim is pretty much locked in somewhere in the top 3. So
I'm gonna take Jim on this one. He might coast. He might try to manipulate his seating a bit, which, believe me, I'm certainly not above.
Oh, no, I've done it before. I don't know if we're allowed to say this on the pod.
Oh, I mean, hey, look, you should have beaten him, is the thing. If he's allowed to control his own destiny, then control it.
Exactly, man.
There's no such thing as a coach being like, oh, we play to win every game. No, we play to win championships.
Exactly.
And if there's an easier path to the championship, then take it.
Yeah, give me that, man.
We've got M1 taking on James here. Again, this has potential playoff ramifications for either of them here. It may end up that neither of them get in, but this very well, I'm going to say there's a 75% chance of a win and get in scenario here. I'd like to see M1 get back to the playoffs. I'd definitely like to see James get into the playoffs. I feel like James has the tenure that he's going to get it done, however.
Yeah, I'm going to trust James here. He's gonna win this game. He's gonna sneak into playoffs, and then we're gonna see him in a few weeks in the final.
We're gonna wonder how it all happened again. That James gets to a historic 4th finals appearance, and potentially the first man to win 2 championships, all while from the top of a mountain in Washington.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure he's battling from his phone on some cliff out in Washington State.
Next, we've got Jack taking on Dale. As we said, if Dale gets this one here, it could potentially make it easier even for James or M1 to get into that slot here. 2 of those people, more than likely, will get into playoffs. If Jack loses, I'm pretty sure he's in anyway. He can. It'll just be the winner of James versus M1 and Jack getting into playoffs here, which could also potentially push out someone like Dave. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm taking Jack all the way on this one.
Next, we've got your match here. As you said, this is one of the few with no real ramifications involved. No. I would like to see Murphy challenge you to the meme match.
Okay.
The vaunted meme match, because there's absolutely nothing of consequence.
No.
From this battle.
Bring Stable Eye, Banded Toxapex. Like I'm bringing the.
I'm going to say that Murphy did a very good job with Substitute on Mega Galley the first time. You got to find a way around that, so that's where I'm going.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
And finally, we've got Drac taking on Leibo here, where, again, the only thing potentially at stake is seedings, where Drac, if he loses, might end up getting jumped by Dan, potentially. But other than that, that's the only thing. It's Drac's either going to be a 1, 2, or 3 seed. So he is in that club with Jim and potentially Dan.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to take... I know Leibo's on fire right now. Coasting after his big win, but I think Drac puts that.
I agree. So that is the week at large here, week 10. Manny, as we go into the final week of the regular season, I have to ask you, could this be the most important week of the season?
Joe? Of course this is the most important week of any PFL season to date, Joe. There are playoff implications on the line, okay? This is win or go home, okay? This is it, boys. Like, this is a chance for glory. Go and take it.
Glory in 8 out of the 10 battles, and that's the thing, is you want to... If you're not in the playoffs, ruin somebody else's hopes. That's all you got to hope for.
Yeah, just make it interesting. Make it so our next Inside the PFL pod is like, can you believe what happened?
All the differences that have been, what change a week makes, and that is indeed why week 10 is the most important week of the season. So as we close the book on week 9 here, I think then it is time to sign off for Inside the PFL. I am Joe.
Manny.
And all you out there in Pokemon Fun League and beyond, enjoy your battles and have fun.
Peace.